Welcome everyone to our reaction to the latest instalment of the COVID crisis, where Boris, as of the 22nd of September 2020, has announced some new restrictions with the coming of the second wave. So we just thought we'd bring you our reaction to it. I'm sure everyone's had a reaction to it. People have reacted in different ways, but we're just going to give our reaction. And it'd be nice if we could hear from you guys and what you think about it, because I know there's a lot of conflicting opinions out there, and it's nice to hear people's viewpoints on this. So I've written them down because it's too much to take in. When with Boris's waffling, it's hard to understand anything he says when it comes out of his mouth the first time. So these are the restrictions. So I will just read them out and explain what my issues are with them, really. So the first one is that office workers are being told now to work from home if they can, despite being told in the last few weeks to go back to work. It's as if I became Boris there when I said that. So yeah, that's the major problem with that, is that it's an immediate contradiction to what they've said in the previous few weeks, which is that everyone should go back to work. And now they're saying, if you can work from home, which is a complete disaster. And then, of course, this is the one I have the greatest issue with, which is the 10 p.m. curfews for pubs and restaurants. And in my humble opinion, that is not going to make the slightest bit of difference, because 1 hour difference is not going to do anything. You've still got the rest of the day when people are going to be in there mixing. And then also, between 10 and 11, the main thing that people are doing in pubs is drinking. So if they can't drink in the pubs, they're just going to go back to people's houses and drink. And then you've got exactly the same problem, if not worse, because you're in a more isolated environment. And so we've still got an issue there. Table service as well now. Table service only, except for takeaways. Again, another exception to the rule, which introduces a loophole. Face coverings have been extended to include all staff in retail, which I was banging on about that in the first week when they brought in face masks, that I noticed that staff weren't wearing them, and it doesn't make any sense. So now finally they've introduced that. All users of taxis and hire cars, and all staff in indoor hospitality. Another one that I noticed, that in a lot of places that I've eaten out, they've been coming to the tables to take your orders and delivering food to the table without wearing any sort of face covering at all. So the risk there of transmission is great. So why, again, they've delayed that, I've no idea. And then the extensions to the rule of 6. So 15 people now for weddings, but 30 for funerals, which I don't understand either. If someone can enlighten me on the reason for that, for the rationale behind that, please do. But I can't see any difference between the two, and you're allowing 15 more people for certain events. It's just completely ludicrous. And then extending the rule of 6 for indoor team sports, so only 6 people. So that's buggered up most team sport. And then the last one is large sporting events will not be allowed to go ahead, which I think was only inevitable, really. But this is all just more waffle, and is overall, the fact that they've had to introduce this shows just how useless the government have been, and that they've let it get out of control so much that they've had to introduce these rules.
If I could say something, just for a moment.
I was just running through them all.
I know people will be waiting to hear my loving voice speak for the nation, as I so lovingly love to do. This latest set of rules has shown that we are right. The government is a complete shambles. You look at the list and you think, what the hell is going on? My main issue is the rule of 6, and I brought this up in our last video about Ofcom and BLM. Check it out if you haven't seen it. They've said nobody can meet any more than 6 people, or 6 people in your bubble at one time. But if you are going hunting, even with the new rules, you can meet as many people as you like. And I would like to see, I know for a fact that numbers of hunters will go up just so that people can socialize. And also the number of people breaking the rule of 6 rule will increase massively, because as I was brought up, my parents brought me up on the law of why should there be one rule for one and another rule for another? Why should what makes the upper class invincible from COVID-19? That means that they can meet in their millions, and us lower class peasants to them can only meet 5 people at one time. It's absolutely disgusting. The only thing that they have is money, and they can't throw money. COVID isn't interested in money. COVID doesn't think, oh, they're rich.
No, exactly.
They're rich, let's leave them alone. It goes, there's a place that we can live.
Yeah. Exactly.
Finally from me, the planned return of spectators to sports venues will now not go ahead from the 1st of October. This is sad news for me as a loving football fan. Not so much because of the Premier League stadiums not allowing fans back, because they are more than financially stable to host each team each week. My main concern is, and I would love to know how the government is going to solve this, is the teams in the lower divisions, as in the EFL Championship, League 1, League 2, and the National League. How are the government going to fund these teams to keep them going?
Exactly.
These lower clubs rely on fans coming into their stadiums, buying programs, buying merchandise each week, so that they can stay afloat. In this pandemic, COVID doesn't look at football clubs and go, oh, let's feel sorry for them. Let's allow fans back into the stadiums.
Yeah.
It says, if fans aren't in the stadiums, well, I've done what I set out to do. It's an absolute shambles.
Yeah. I think that just sums it up, really. And the one question, the really overarching question is, what is the logic behind these rules? There just seems to be no
There
logic.
is no logic.
They just feel like they're panicking because they don't want to be accused of reacting too late, like they did in the first wave. But in my opinion, I don't think these measures are going to make the slightest bit of difference. And I think that actually in a few weeks' time, I'm afraid there's going to be tighter measures because these are too soft.
And how the hell did they not see the second wave coming? Because
it's just mind-boggling.
If you watch any of our older videos, we always mention a second wave, and we always mention that the second wave will come in the autumn when kids go back to school and when people are back to work and everything returns to normal. Why didn't they see that?
Just beggars belief.
As a fan of Good Morning Britain,
Yeah.
I watched yesterday's show with eagerness after they announced that there would be a curfew at 10 p.m. for all hospitality venues. Now, they had somebody who owns 5 pubs and bars in London as a guest on yesterday.
Yeah.
And he was saying, and he made a very good point. He said that the Conservatives have given up with their game of whack-a-mole, with the
which was never going to work,
with their shambolic test and trace, which never worked, never took off. And who do they turn against? They turn against the hospitality sector.
Well, they're just passing the blame on to everyone else, aren't they?
Exactly. And let's be honest, the hospitality sector has only just got itself back off the ground, and it was thrown under the bus by the government with the Eat Out to Help Out. If nobody had heard of Eat Out to Help Out, if the government had never come up with this scheme, would we be suffering a second wave? Maybe. Would we have to blame the hospitality sector? No. Who is really to blame here? I think there is only one person to blame.
It's a collection of people. Matt Hancock as well. Absolute shambles.
Matt Hancock, Rishi Sunak, who created the Eat Out to Help Out, Boris Johnson.
But also, I had a major problem with that briefing the other day with the 2 medical officers. Why? It's not their job to give a briefing. They're supposed to be advising the government. The Prime Minister should be standing there explaining it. You shouldn't have 2 medical officers who are not experienced in addressing the public, giving very confusing messages and a lot of numbers, and people couldn't take it in. They need simple messaging. And again, once again, the Prime Minister is not is not making himself visible when he needs to, and it's a major problem.
Professor Chris Whitty, another name who we have grown to know and love, like a bullet to the head, said that if we don't put specific measures in place now, by October, there will be 50,000 cases or 50,000 deaths or something along those lines. How is he getting those figures?
Well, it's all predictions at the moment, which doesn't look good on their part. But I think what they're thinking is based on what happened in the first wave and how quickly it got out of hand. That's what they're sort of basing it on, I think.
But this is just the perfect example of fear-mongering. Where we've both seen examples of the second wave of panic buying.
Don't get me started.
Because people are being scared by the government and by the media, by them saying that the second wave is going to be as bad as the first, or the second wave is going to be even worse than the first. And we don't know that. Nobody
we don't know that, but I do think that they are sensing this complacency thing that we've been banging on about, and I think that they're trying to get people back to earth a little bit, and to remember what happened in the first wave.
Is scaring the public the right way of doing it?
Well, honestly, the panic buying is ludicrous, because we know that even in the first lockdown, which was really draconian, you were still able to go to the shops and buy toilet rolls, for goodness sake. I mean, it is literally, people have lost their minds. I think it's selfish, and I think it's just stupidity, to be honest. And they should know better. And apparently, Tesco, the boss of Tesco, has hit out telling people not to panic buy because there's no need, and it's meaning that customers can't get what they want.
There is no need for panic buying.
Why do people not remember what happened in the first wave? I don't understand.
I think we learned that lesson in the first wave. There were massive restrictions on what you can buy and what you can't buy. And if people carry on the way that they are, we're going to be back following those restrictions, as well as following the restrictions of whatever ludicrous rules the so-called Prime Minister is spewing out. And can I just, I am looking forward to one thing in the next few months, in the next few weeks even. Next Saturday sees the return of the hit puppet sitcom Spitting Image.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's going to be great.
I am looking forward to seeing how they tackle Boris Johnson's handling of COVID-19.
From what I've seen of the puppet, it's going to be fantastic.
And Matt Lucas, Ofcom again.
I'll tell you what, I mean, it was only a few complaints. It was so hilarious and brilliant comic timing straight after Boris's announcement. Genius.
Matt Lucas has been at the centre of Ofcom complaints.
He has.
Because of a short sketch at the start of the Great British Bake Off, where he imitates the Prime Minister's latest guidelines, and how much they don't make sense, with Prue and Paul.
Yeah, Prue Whitty.
Acting as the professional scientific advisors, and Noel Fielding acting as someone from the media.
Yeah.
But why do we feel the need to complain about something so...
Wow. I've just finished watching Bake Off, and it was really light relief. It was funny. And I just can't understand why people can't just sit back and not complain for once.
But how many people do we think will... If people are complaining about Matt Lucas imitating the Prime Minister, how many complaints do we reckon Spitting Image will get?
I would place my bets fairly high on that.
I recently watched a documentary on the original run of Spitting Image, and obviously they loved Margaret Thatcher, and they ripped everything out of Margaret Thatcher to the point that Margaret Thatcher actually said, "Actually, this puppet's better than me. I'm going to do everything the way that my puppet does everything." Including the way she dresses, and including the way she talked. And Edwina Curry.
Oh. Did you see that on Good Morning Britain?
Yes. Who used to be in Parliament and was at one point the Health Secretary, I believe, or the Health Minister. She was interviewed because she was one of the more popular puppets at the time, and I'm not talking about her ministerial career. I am talking about her Spitting Image career. Thank you.
In case anyone was in any doubt.
Yeah, just in case anyone was in any doubt. And she was saying that celebrities were more offended or more hurt if they weren't included on Spitting Image. So I think people need to take that into account. We are in the 21st century. The PC Brigade if any of you are watching, please, in the words of Rowan Atkinson, sod off.
Well, today we've seen that Uncle Ben's is now. Sorry
Exactly.
for this change in topic, but now you've got me started. But Uncle Ben's is now being given a new name. It's going to be called Ben's Original now, and they're scrapping the image of the guy on the front. It's total lunacy. No one gives a toss what is on that packaging. They just buy Uncle Ben's rice. They don't have a problem with it. It's a load of nonsense.
But I feel we should end with some very short points. Firstly, the government is a shambles. How Boris ever got elected in December, we'll never know.
Weak opposition.
Days before, he was captured on Good Morning Britain,
hiding
in a fridge, and yet he was still elected.
A weak leader in Brexit is the answer, which is, fair enough. But
I think the government should take a long, hard look at themselves, and I use that term a lot at the moment because I think a lot of people who are famous or use the term in high positions or use the term. I use the term very loosely. Celebrities, they have too much power. They have too much power and they have too much say. For example, Alicia Dixon's BLM necklace. We will get into that at a later date.
I'm sure there'll be another clip.
But I think every celebrity that thinks that they know what they're talking about, and every celebrity that takes a political stance and decides to show that political stance when they aren't politicians should be ashamed of themselves.
And that brings on nicely to a point that I just wanted to make, which is that a lot of these celebrities like Denise Welch and all these outspoken ones who are basically playing down COVID and keep saying that all of them keep saying that currently, and it's annoying me, in the papers they're saying this as well now, that apparently at the moment COVID is now 1% death rate in terms of all of the deaths. But that's at the moment. And if you look at the number of cases, it's not even as high as when we came out of lockdown. When we came out of lockdown, it was about 8,000 cases a day. It's not even up there yet. We're not even close to that yet. And deaths were quite low then. Just think about I want to remind everyone, think back to March and April, when 900, nearly 1,000 people were dying a day. And at that point, it was not 1% of the death rate. And it wasn't the 8th biggest killer or whatever it is. It was a serious and significant killer. So I just want people to be reminded of that, and that if this spirals out of control again, we will see the death rate go up again, because there's no scientific evidence to say that the virus has lost its potency. So please stop quoting that. I know it's 1% now, and that's good, but if it continues to rise, it will go up. That's all I have to say.
And the last point of the evening: if you are a snowflake of a whippersnapper who feels that they have nothing better to do than complain about stupid little sketches or songs or comedy material or the latest drama that's on ITV because it shows a murderer hiding bodies in a cupboard, I suggest maybe take up an instrument. I think the guitar is very easy to learn, or the recorder.
Sing about your problems.
Sing about your problems. Or go see a psychiatrist. Get therapy.
Just have a reality check is what I would say. And just have a sensible conversation with someone and think, hang on a minute. No, there's no problem with this. You're just overreacting and you're just jumping on a bandwagon. So don't do it, please.
think about what you post. We love you all, as always. Make sure you like the Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we will see you all again very soon.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you soon.